Good afternoon, good evening, and not such an early good morning. I am Brian. This is Revit Radio. Behind, above, below, whatever is Melissa. Most of the names we recognize here, there are a few new names up here. So for those of you who've never been on a Revit Radio before, this presentation is all about you asking questions and us answering it. Our answers might be, I have the flippant idea, but we're going to at least answer them. So if no questions come up, you don't have anything going on in here. So big thing we do ask is you do put the questions in the question and answer pod, and then heckle us, give comment, follow up comments to questions, tell us we're doing things wrong, whatever you want to do in the webinar chat. Always a good thing to get corrected if we're wrong. I always say one of the best tips I ever picked up was during one of my own presentations at a conference when somebody said, "Hey, did you know you could do this too?" And I love that feature. So with that, I usually start off with something before we get going. Although Jason has had his questions all preloaded up, it looks like. So he's got a few questions in there. But I did want to start with one thing first. Just a couple things about this. I did spend last week at Inside the Factory. But you don't know what that is, it's where we get to go try to break all of the potential new features that are coming out. So always love that. And then 2 weeks prior to that, I was at Autodesk University. So I know Melissa was not there because it would have been a long flight. But I always enjoy Autodesk University in San Diego this year, so it's kind of nice to get a different venue that wasn't a total cluster like it was in New Orleans. Still an extremely long venue, and then not only did they have the long San Diego Convention Center, they had the hotels on each side. And literally, there were times you'd be in a class on this hotel, and then a class in that hotel, and you're like, "No, I'm done. I'm just not going."
Oh, you got your steps in.
No, I did not. My knee was killing me. I don't know what it was. So I literally had a session and I saw the presenter. I'm like, I want to go to your session. It's just too far away, so I'm not gonna go. Sorry. Hmm. So that was kind of fun. The one thing I did, coming back from inside the factory, I did get a little bit excited about, the one thing that who's never actually done inside the factory. The worst part about it is when you come back and you're like, oh man, I really want that feature now, and that feature doesn't exist because it might not ever exist. You have no idea, but you're always kind of like, oh man, I really wish we had that feature. Um, but it did make me think about the Revit Road Map. So I know a lot of people don't go into the Revit Road Map, but they do have some Revit Road Map. These are like, where are we going? These are oftentimes the big picture ideas, things that they're thinking about on things like that. Other times it's like in progress. Means that they are doing some development on this, and more than likely the development of this is going to make the release. In what way, shape, or form, we have no idea, but more than likely it's going to make the release. And honest truth, this is a lot of what I played with. Can't really talk about what we did or anything, but there was a lot of the stuff inside of here that we played with. And all I can say is there is a definite one, if not two features that if it makes it into Revit 26, I think a lot of, especially architectural firms, but all firms in general, are going to have a hard
Yeah,
time
hold on.
not saying they want to upgrade.
I see a thing that says you started screen sharing, but it just is a
Oh, I
message. Oh, there we
accidentally
go.
bumped the
Okay.
pause. I accidentally bumped the pause at some point in time. Dang, I hate it when I do that.
Okay.
It was actually this one. So yeah, the Revit roadmap, it does come in here, and you do have where are we going, which is the big picture, and then you have the in progress, right? So go Google the Revit roadmap, go ahead and look at this. And like I said, there was a few features that were inside of here that was like, okay, this is gonna be huge if it makes it into the 26th release. And we actually had a joke with some of the programmers going, I think if this one makes it in, this will get everybody to say, I want to upgrade now. I want to go to the 26th release. I could be wrong because most people are superstitious and don't want to do that anyway. The other thing that I did play with a little bit before AU, because I happen to have Adam Sheether with what is his
Automation?
company?
Is it automation? Or are you
Yeah, is
thinking
that what
bad
it's called now? I
monkeys?
thought it was something different. I'm thinking about, well, it was Bad Monkeys, but anyways, Adam Sheether actually crashed into my house before AU, and then we went up to AU. And the one thing he was also getting about, we talked about this a little bit at Inside the Factory as well, that a lot of people don't know that if you have a project on Autodesk Hub, so in the ACC, if it's a 24 or 25 project, you could now start going in and playing with the AEC Data Model Explorer. You have to enable it on your hub, so you do have to do that first. What's really cool is you can come in here and sign in, and then it shows you all of the hubs that have this enabled, and then gives you the name of those hubs that you happen to be into. And if you grab like one of the, if you grab the hub ID and it's got this all set up for you, you can then come down here and be like, cool, I want to go run my hub. And then it'll show you all the projects in that hub. And you can take that stuff from your project data. You can start coming out and extracting like data, things like this. And this is all going to be live right there. You can start tracking data out of this. So it's just something that I don't know if a lot of people know that exists, but it does exist. It is on ACC. And the only thing I would say you have to do first is, let me go log into my ACC hub, is you do have to go into your account admin for your hub. Account admin. And once you're in that account admin, you do have to go into, and they have this all written down. If you Google the AEC Hub, they've got it all inside of there. But you have to go into your custom integrations and add the AEC Data Model Explorer. They have steps for all of this. It all works really, really well. Again, I just started playing with this. I've spent about maybe an hour inside of there, but what it does do, it's actually pretty cool. So you have to enable it in your hub. Once you do, or if any of the projects you are on have it enabled in the hub, then you'll be able to start extracting that data. So just things to let you know, go play at the Revit Road Map. Maybe you'll get excited about some of the potential new features. And also then, start seeing if you want to start playing with some of that AEC data model. Alrighty then. So gonna jump into the first question we had, and Melissa does not have this question because Chris emailed this question to me. He actually had a question, and I did answer it via the email for him. But he was saying he's trying to do curved stairs, and in Revit, whenever he does these curved stairs, he cannot do it with a closed stringer. So, or excuse me, an open stringer, not a closed stringer. So we actually start looking at this, and we look in Revit. This one, I was able to do this with a closed, excuse me, an open stringer inside of here. The weird part is for whatever reason in Revit, when you get a curve with a open stringer, you have to make sure that you have an offset for the supports. If I go change these supports to be a zero offset and say, okay, it's going to be like,
It
yep,
goes
nope, I
now.
cannot do that. Yeah, you have to have an offset in there. Oops. I don't know how big that offset has to be. I haven't really sat down and started playing with it. Like, can I make it a quarter of an inch? I have no idea, but you have to have an offset inside of there when you're going through and playing with it. Yeah, so it looks like a quarter of
Okay.
an inch would work too. So that was been a known bug. Honest truth, Chris asked, emailed that to me, and I could not remember. I'm like, I don't get it. I know I've done that. You could do it, and then of course I tried it, and it broke. And I'm like, wait, there was something about this, and I had to go through the database in the brain and be like, oh, that's right, you have to have an offset. So that is something that you do have to have inside of there. And then while I was in here, I also wanted to show people because a lot of people don't know this. Yes, UWP and structure people could just fall asleep, whatever you want. But when you look at the run type, when you are doing a run, you can come in here and have the profile that you might be using go to the front and the left, the front and the right, or all three sides if you want. So you can change it from the default out of the box is just the front only, which is what you would get there. But if we have this, we're probably going to wrap that around. So you can change that nosing profile to go to only one side, go to both sides, do whatever you want to do there. So always just like to show that when I'm showing the closed versus open stringers as well. Okay, so that was the first question I had. Looks like we got some
Nice.
questions coming in. So what do we got there?
Well, Jason had been asking about AU and inside the factory, so you got that. Nice work. How about a quick one? Can text size be changed to points? So I'm assuming
The
as
short
opposed
answer
to
to that
saying
is
30
no.
seconds.
The good answer to that is there's probably a calculator that online that would let you do it. No, and Michael's asking that, and it's actually a good point. There are a lot of utilities out there that will let you take like an Excel file, bring it into Revit, and it'll go and create like the dummy schedule with the headers and the titles and whatever.
Mhm.
But the problem with all of those is you have a point size font. When it brings it in, it doesn't choose which font in Revit for you, most of them. It creates one, and there is no 330 seconds equivalent in points. Like, and I don't think you can say like make it a 13.75 point font in Word. That doesn't exist. So there is no direct translation. So yes, it is something, Michael, that does bother me that I've known know we have inside of there. But yeah, there's no way to say, hey, Revit, do this. I am sure if you probably looked online, there's probably some sort of conversion factor saying, hey, if you want a 330 seconds, you've got to make it close to this, etc. But no, there's no way in Revit to say I want the fonts to be in point sizes.
Boo.
Well, I think part of that is, I mean, it would still make sense is when you all the fonts are scalable, right? It's an annotative object. So it's going to finish print at 30 seconds on paper. I have never known somebody to scale something on a piece of paper that is a point size. So, so that's it.
That's
I'm sorry, nothing in there.
all right. Let's see. Jason's got a couple on 2025. So we'll put those together. Do you have any clients using 2025 yet? And if so, are they experiencing any issues?
I haven't seen anybody have any issues with it. I know a bunch of people did jump into 25. 25.3 is out. So anybody's telling you they're waiting for the first service pack, they're full of crap. We're on the third. It's been out for it's been out, right? It came out April 1st. So we are over 6 months past this. So if we're 7 months now, right? April, September, October. Yeah, we're 7 months in now. So we're in November. So we've had it for 7 months. I always laugh. People like, no, 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 we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting. But yeah, I mean, point three or actually point two gave us, you got tab project browser now. The speeds are just faster. I do like the tab project browser. I'm still mostly staying in the home because I'm not used to it yet. Just all of the little features we've gained and got inside of there, it's been kind of nice. And I have noticed a definite speed improvement on this. So yeah, I have several clients doing it. They've all upgraded. One client recently just upgraded from Revit 22 to 25, and it was on an ACC project, and we haven't noticed any issues in that either. So we did a full three versions upgrade and haven't noticed any problem with it. So
Did you just do a cloud upgrade or did everybody?
ironically, we needed to move it to a different freaking hub. So it was download all of them, open them all up, repath all the freaking links. That was a pain. But once that was done, ironically, there was a lot less warnings with like MEP ducts needing to get detached duct taps and everything else, which I'm so used to seeing during most of the upgrades. So either that
Mhm.
MEP firm did a really good job, or there was no issues with that in the upgrade. So the only thing I will say, and I honest truth don't know if this is ever going to happen, is I haven't heard of any add-in utilities because that's the only other thing I say is a lot of people are like, no, 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 we can't upgrade because our add-in utilities haven't been out there. Again, it's been 7 months. If you have an
Mm.
add-in utility that you're paying for that isn't upgraded yet, you need to find a different add-in. If it takes them 7 months to upgrade an add-in, that's nothing wrong. So that's kind of my answer. I know PyRevit has not upgraded, and I do know for all the add-in utilities, this has been a bad year for upgrading, partially because they switched from .NET 6 or something like that to .NET 8 or
Mm.
whatever it is, and that involved a lot of different versionings. The companies who had, I'm not going to say poor, I'm just going to say disorganized code behind the scenes, they've struggled getting their utilities to upgrade. But the only one I know of that has not upgraded to the .NET is, I believe, PyRevit. And again, that's a free utility. It's got like six people
Yeah,
trying to do it. Um,
you get what
it's
you pay
there.
for.
Yeah. The other thing that does crack me up, and the one thing that I loved, they added in 25. I just got to remember where it is. I believe it's in the add-ins tab. You'd think it'd be on the add-ins tab. Where the frick is that? Or is it on the manage tab? Yeah, it's on the manage tab, I think. Where is it? Looking for the new add-ins tool. Am I in Revit 25 first off? Yes, I am. What is it? Those on manage or add-ins. Browser facing selection now. Yeah, see here. That's the macro manager, the add-ins
Oh, the
manager.
disable.
Yeah, so they do give us an add-ins manager inside of Revit now, which there's also a version without being inside of Revit, but you can come in here and start enabling and disabling add-ins here too. But it also then tells you how long these add-ins take to load, which ones are going to take to load,
Mhm.
what's going on with this. So it does tell you, hey, this is what's slowing down your Revit when you get into there. So they do have that outside of here to be looking at as well. You will notice that I personally right now have my Inkscape 3D disabled. And for those of you who might have noticed this, the Inkscape 4.1 hijacks your Revit icons. I do not know what's going on with Inkscape, and I know Aaron Maller is talking to them about this. But if you have Revit pinned on your taskbar in Windows, and you open Revit via that, it will add an additional icon with the out of the box icon, not the icon you choose. So Inkscape is hijacking your Revit icon. So I personally disabled it in all of my views. I know they came out with 4.2 recently. Um, so I haven't tried it with that one, but it was hijacking icons. It was the weirdest thing. I like you start Revit, you see the Revit 25 icon, and then when Revit fully opened, it disappeared. It was like, what the heck is that? I'm just back down to the out of the box icon. And then I noticed with some of my users, if they had it pinned on their taskbar, then it would open up a separate icon. So now they had the one they thought they were in, they'd click on and they'd be opening up another damn session of Revit. So it's kind of a really bizarre tool when
Hmm.
you were inside of there. And Inkscape Chaos Group had some sort of issues with the way Revit did something new, and so they just hijacked the icon. I think it's crap because it's the only add-in I have hijacking the icon, but I don't know. Got to figure out what it is and see if they'll bring it back. But you do have this add-in manager, and like I said, you can say disable all, you can disable the macros, but it is kind of a nice little feature to be able to go through and do that too.
I like the time to load bit.
Yeah,
You know, you don't have to just kind of guess.
I think a lot of them are
Let's
not accurate
see.
because like this one's like, oh, 6 seconds, or I mean, my Revit was taking 20 minutes to open when I had all my add-ins installed
Yeah, that's
previously, and
true.
I'm like, all of these are
Oh
less than
man.
6 seconds. My Revit should still be opening in a couple minutes.
Yeah, that's a little intense.
Yeah, Sarah's like, oh my God, that's the icon thing. Yeah, right. Actually, Aaron Maller's the one who told me that. I did notice it happening to other clients, but I did not know what was going on. And Maller's the one who let me know it was Inkscape. So I've disabled Inkscape in all my versions of Revit. It's like, nope, I'll turn it back on when I need it, but I can't have you hijacking my icons because having four Revit icons down here that were the same was not doing it for me.
You don't like playing like Revit roulette.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Chris had a follow on for the 25. Have you had any issues with Dynamo and add-ins in 25? I'm having some issues with a specific add-in, he thinks.
I would guess probably because again, when they updated Revit to .NET 8 from 4, I would imagine a lot of those older packages are going to be having some issues. So personally, I don't use a whole lot of Dynamo, so I probably wouldn't have noticed this. But I'm pretty sure that there has been some people complaining, oh, we had to go redo our packages with the new Revit .NET 8.
Yeah. And I can't say 25 because only I've only dynamoed in 24, but my problem was more with the changes to some of the nodes and the way I can't remember the specific. Some John Pearson told me about it, of course. So they changed how you call up something. I can't remember if it was a view thing uh, or an element thing, but we basically had to replace a bunch of nodes because they work differently.
Yeah,
So it
they
could
changed
also
some
be
of the way some
possibly
of the
that.
nodes works. They deprecated some of the old nodes that were there, added new ones in their place.
Yeah. All
All right, so
right,
what's
should
the
we
next
go?
question we got going on?
Let's go to Rick's door tag. So Rick's asking, is there a way to make a door tag that reads X host count at size equals total number of occupants? Okay, so I'm exiting tag, I'm guessing. Trying to make a door tag that I could use on a string of doors, like in curtain wall, several doors of the same size side by side, or I could use one tag but use the multi-leader and put a leader to each of them from one tag, and then have the tag read the host count, which it can do, then have it read the egress width, wow, which it can do, pulling it from the door itself. Then have it calculate the total occupants through that set of doors by calculating the occupancy of each door, which in my case it's pulling from the door, and multiplying by the host count. I've even tried setting up a manually entered host count type parameter that it could use to do the math with, and I can't get it to display the total occupant number. I've tried multiple things.
So you're unless you start ganging doors together, you're not going to be able to have a series of doors that you want to extract data from all of those doors. right? So kind of like you're saying in a curtain wall, or if you're like in a, I run this with some of my clients that do a lot of museums and or convention centers. We've got 10 doors here. So technically each one of these doors could handle six occupants or whatever it might be, but there's no way I'm going to be able to create a tag to say, cool, I have nine doors where the egress capacity could be 54 occupants. No, I cannot do that if we're trying to auto calculate that. So if you're trying to figure out what it is, you can't do that. So yeah, for me, unfortunately, 90% of the time I put that little tag down. It's a dummy symbol or it's a door tag, and I'm only extracting that from one of the doors, and those values are in one of the doors. But there's no way you're going to use. So if you look at this door, it might say occupancy capacity is 54, but we know it's only nine because all the sum of all of these are that way. So no, there's no, unfortunately, in Revit, there's no way to get it to do all of this. The only thing you could possibly do is have a little schedule that extracted the data from these five doors, and you had a schedule that had a filter for just these doors that you put something in the comment of like Homer Simpson, and then your schedule is only going to schedule the Homer Simpson doors. Which I did have a client do that. You laugh, and my clients lately, I've been doing the dumb schedules where you schedule something and you use the titles for everything. So my filter is always the filter equals Homer Simpson because I know no one's ever going to put Homer Simpson in the properties of something. If they do, all my schedules are going to break.
Well, now.
Then I'll just start switching into Marge or Bart or something like that. But yeah, so that's the only other way I have seen it done. And a lot of people freak out like, no, I just want to see it on the sheet I'm in or on the view I'm in. I don't necessarily even have a schedule on top of it on the sheet. So that's the only possible way if you really wanted to extract that I know of all of the data together on individual elements. Because again, like you said, you could do a tag and then you could do a multi-liter tag, but there's no way to get this multi-liter tag to calculate the values of all of those elements, right? So if I come up here and I say I want to add the other elements, this one, did I miss it? This, add liters. No, I'm not show
Think you
all
want to
liters.
do add remove host.
There we go. Thank you. I have the sun coming in my window right now. Right. So you could do that. I'm out of the box. There's probably not a type mark barrier on here, is there? Yeah. But you get the point. So, but no, I have not found a way to say, hey, take the sum of this and this and this and this and all of those doors. Take the value of count, quantity and add it all together. So I wish I had something better for you. I don't. And then again, also you're trying to say like egress width total between all of the doors. Again, not something that I've been able to have inside of there either. So for
Mhm.
me, unfortunately, that's usually a dumb tag I put right next to it. I just put those values in. So since we only have one other question, that did make me think of something though that I don't think everybody knows you can do in Revit. So I'm going to throw this out there while I'm waiting for other questions. That if you have a dimension string and you've got a dimension string like this, and especially if those dimensions are all equally spaced, what I can do come down here is I can turn off the equally spaced, but in your dimensions, the very bottom, you have down here what's called equality formula. And right now, when I look at this equality formula, I can start playing with what I wanted this to do. So I can have this say, cool, I wanted the number of segments. So each number of segments we're going to have inside of here, which one, two, it's the gaps between. Or I could say the number of witness lines, which in this case would be all of the doors, whatever you're thinking of here. Then I can be like, cool, I wanted the length of each segment, move that up for the total length, right? So I could say, cool, the number of segments, is going to be this. I'm going to put a prefix and a suffix. And then I wanted the length of each segment to have the at suffix in it. And then I wanted the total length to have an equals in front of it. And then when I say, okay, nothing is going to happen here unless I go into the properties for the equality display and say, cool, I want to show that formula. So now I can say there's 4 at 4 foot 6 equaling 18 feet overall. So I don't think everybody knows you can actually do this with dimension styles, but you have that capability. I hate the fact that this is type based. So oftentimes, especially for like my structural engineers, I have 330 seconds normal, 330 seconds beam spacing, three blah blah blah. You can start doing it in all of those cases. Or even something like with your stairs, you could go in here and start going, okay, cool. I wanted to do this with my stair. Grab this because they are all equal. Say, show me the equality formula, not the text. And again, I can say, hey, there's 5 of those at 11 inches equaling 4 foot 7. So you have the capability as long as the values are equal, to kind of set this up.
That's definitely one of those things I
Um,
knew was there long ago, but totally forgot where to find it. So thanks. Oh
Just
yeah.
kind of like the stare questions. Like, wait, I know the answer to this, or at least I knew the answer to
I did
this.
this that one time, like a decade ago. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I use this quite often, especially when I see people say equal, 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 equal,
Mhm.
equal, equal, equal. I'm sorry, you can also do that here. I could change it from equality formula to equality text. That doesn't mean anything to me. So cool, they're all equal, but what are they? What's my overall distance? And then I have people do that, then they'll come in and do this and be like, cool, those are all equal, but
Mhm.
it's 4'7". And I'm like,
Now you
really?
have to math.
Now you have to math that. Why don't I just set the formula up and be cool? Here's what we got. So
Yes, that does make way
that's
more
just
sense.
me. I love that feature. I always like to show it. The other thing for the architects in the room that I don't know if you know that I don't ever see anybody do, but on the annotate tab, since we're talking about this, it popped into my head. On the annotate tab, one of the tags you actually have, oh, I did not go to 3D. Let's stay here, is stair path that you can actually tag the stair path of a stair, which is not that big of a deal. It's just going to give you the up down arrow like this. But you also have, where is it? I think it's under the tag area, tread numbers. So I don't think a lot of people know you can actually tag tread numbers inside of here. Once you tag them, you can actually select it and see that, cool, am I grabbing the risers or am I going to grab the treads if you wanted those numbers to change? What's the display rule? Do you want to display all of them, odds, even, only the start, only the end? You've got a little different options here. Am I going to the center of the stair, all the way to the left of the stair, or I'm going to actually add all of them in here. Excuse me, wrong button. All. Do I want to go to the center, the left quarter? It'll go to the quarter of it. You have a lot of different options inside of here. And then you can also offset it. How are you justifying it? Text can be horizontal, vertical. And you can also do this in a section too. So if you happen to have a section, right? So this is usually going to be a residential type more thing. But if I go to that section, I can still do that tag, that tread number in the section. Well, that's fun.
That's a fun feature.
All right, we'll flip it so we can see the other half of the stairs. Flip section. There you go. So just one of those features that a lot of different ways to be able to come in and start playing with this stuff. Also, did you guys know that too? That if you grab a crop, I always see people going to a floor plan to grab a section to hit the flip control. But if you're in the section, you have to have a crop region visible. But if you have a crop region visible, you can select it and say flip section here. So you don't have to leave the view to flip the section. I use that one often. I just know after time I do it, people are like, wait, what did you just do? How'd you do that? Spacebar, unfortunately, does not work like everything else. I also learned something new inside the factory from Paul Aubin, and I did not know this. Did you know that if you have something and you hit rotate and you go to rotate, spacebar puts you into the move, the place origin marker?
Oh man, that's another one of those that I did know at one time and always forget.
Yeah, I did not know that one. I taught him in return. If you just grab something and type in R3 on the keyboard, it puts you into the place origin marker without even going into the rotate command first. I guess that copy turned on to you point. Yeah, so I didn't know spacebar puts you into gives you that to you because I'm not usually a two key typer. So for me, I don't want to put my donut down. I hit rotate. I'm still old school. I drag the icon
Mm.
because I've always had to in old versions. So I still rarely hit like the place button, etc. Just not something that I do that often. But yeah, I did not know the space bar was on there. And if you guys can't tell, I'm still buying for time. We have 30 minutes and only one question left.
Well, although we can ask Rick what the one that just says view means.
Yeah, I don't know what that one means either. So
So Rick can clarify. Do I look at Jason's? So a lovely
sure.
design option. So how would you handle bid alternates for submittals and removing them if not accepted? I would think design options, even though they are a pain for MEP. Ah, okay, thanks, Rick. Less confused.
Um, So yeah, I mean, I know design design options doesn't really work with MEP if you're trying to connect to a duct and do all of the analysis. I mean, you can use design options in your MEP stuff. You just can't use them calculations or wiring, all of the, tools that you need there. But I would think if you're in literally just bid alternates for now, you would start going in and doing those design options. So I know it's a horrible thing for mechanical, electrical, plumbing. It's not bad for structure. It's obviously not bad at all for architects. But yeah, I think you're just gonna have to go in and start using those design options to go through and start doing it. Now, with that said, I mean, if you are part of that bid alternate is trying to say, yes, but if we do this one, we've got to, double the size of this mechanical unit, then you might have to start modeling the whole entire run. I know oftentimes people freak out about that because they're kind of like, cool, I'm going to go set up a design option, new. There's my option set. I always tell people to name those. It drives me crazy when it just says option set one. So give it a name, right? Then you can have some couple options underneath it. The one thing that I always try to tell people when you are dealing with this, especially for you guys like in the MEP world, if you were like, cool, my option is going to be at the end, or maybe it's even going to change out the rooftop unit, or whatever is going to happen. If you grab a series of elements and you hit the little add to option set down here, you can add it to all of those options at the same time. So yeah, it does suck if you're going to come back out and go through and try to, reroute the path and you got to update it in all three. That's not going to happen. But you can use this button to put it into all three. Or alternatively, if you're like, man, I think I might need it, but I'm not sure. If you copy things to the clipboard or cut them to the clipboard, wrong copy. If you copy or cut those to the clipboard, you can then go, it's cut. You can then go start editing those different option sets and then just do the paste same place. So if it's not the whole entire thing you want to do some of it, cool. There's my same place for option one. Maybe I wanted it in option two as well. I have no idea. But you can start coming through here and then tweaking it as you see fit for those different design options. Or switch to 30-inch door. But yeah, that's going to be the best thing. Once you start saying, yes, this is the one we're going with, and unfortunately, architects are horrible at this part, is removing them. So once you get all said and done with that, you're like, cool, I'm going to go back to the main model, right? When we come in here and start looking, whatever is primary, you have the capability to accept that primary, right? So I can come down, you're like, cool, I want to be inside of here. I want this primary one to be the one we went with. When you accept the primary, it's like, sure, you're going to do this. All the design options are going to go away. And what freaks most people out is once you do that, it's going to tell you it's deleting things. So if somebody had dimensioned one of those other design options, the dimensions are going to go away, tags are going to go away. If they specifically, I'm going to undo that. If they specifically were in a view and in that view, they said, cool, under this design option, I don't want an automatic. I want it to be seeing display two. When you go into that design option and you accept primary, that's going to be also one of those things where it might be like, hey, I'm deleting all of this stuff. This is why architects don't do it because they freak out. Oh, it's deleting everything. Oh my God, I can't do that. So, and the list is never one thing. It's like, oh, all of these views, all of these, and it just freaks them out. So that's what it's going to do, and that's why architects never get rid of them. I go into projects like get as-built models from building owners. There's still design options in. I'm like, what the hell? This is not as-built if there's design options in it.
We would definitely get rid of the design options, but we would also always archive a copy first because that this is definitely the option we want. Never
Oh yeah, that
changes.
never happens. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they
I
never.
don't
Well,
archive it
remember
anymore.
2 months ago when we did that thing? Yeah,
Well, I stopped archiving. The only reason I stopped archiving is because, in ACC, we literally have a version of everything. So
that's
the biggest thing for me when I go inside of there is I go in and I put comments. Like, hey, this is when I synchronize before accepting design options, and then I do my design option exception, and then I do synchronize again. So I don't know if a lot of people, shoot, I was in the wrong place. I didn't mean to go there. I'm meant to go here. I don't know if a lot of people have ever done this, but if you are in, sure, this one will work. If you are in a project and in Revit, when you synchronize, you can actually put comments. And if you actually go in and put comments in there, that's not what I wanted to do. God dang it, wrong button. I meant to say view versions. So if you go in here to version history, it will show those comments. So when somebody comes back and says, "Holy crap, I didn't really want that design option. I wanted something else," gotta be one with me in here. I haven't been in this file in a while. Oh, there was one. Where you go? I saw it. It's one of
Yeah,
our
blinked up there
students.
for a second. Oh, there
So
it
like
is.
for me, I always put comments of what I've done. I don't do it every single time I synchronize, but definitely this is my version of archiving if you're on the cloud. Nobody ever does this, but this I do it all the time, like especially for me because I'm not in clients' files doing a whole lot. Hey, I opened with audit, I compacted central. Um, totally go through and I always set this up. But again, that's definitely my version of archiving now. Hey, this was the end of SDs, this was the end of CDs, this was the end for 10%, whatever. We accepted this design option. Holy crap, we blew out all the blah 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 because of design change, whatever. I always put those comments in here. And then I don't remember what version it was. You can actually say open on these old ones. We used to only have restore, but if you say open, what it's doing is opening a detached model of that version. So you can grab that version as a detached model. So I have no reason to clutter up my server anymore with a crap ton of archived models. This literally saves every single one. I laugh. I went back to one of my clients' files, and this date was like because we've upgraded it so many times. I think the original date was like 2008, and there were like 20,000 backups. I don't know of anybody there, but I've never seen somebody save 20,000 backups of any one of their projects because every time somebody synchronizes, you get a backup of it. And that's why comments can really, really become great. And especially for me, like when I upgrade project hubs, when I do that, I always go in and say, this is the last synchronized before upgrading. I go open and synchronize or publish all the projects. I save them, I publish them. And then after the upgrade, I go in, rename them, and then I give the first synchronize and it says, this is the new 2025 version. So I literally have the before and the after. Because again, I could still go open up that old version if I needed to.
So even after you've upgraded it, you could roll back to.
You can. It's really weird because it like upgrades during the process, but you can also go back and open it because it's going to download that file. So yes. And
But
I
would you
also
have to
publish
open
to the
it?
cloud, so I can go back and download from the published version in the cloud if I needed to as well.
Yeah, I guess I was more wondering, does it upgrade all of your backups? Or would you have to go back to
It's
24
weird.
and
I've
open?
done it before, but then I think it was some weird thing I had to do, and I was like, screw it, I'll go download the published version. But again, I do that same thing on the published versions. I then go add comments. Like when I open up an ACC, I will go add comments on some of those older versions or put a note in there, etc. So, Jason, I hope that answers your question of would I use design options? Absolutely, I would. It's what they're there for. The worst thing I see is when somebody does like a save as in the model. God, I hate that. Because then somebody's like, cool, I want part of this, part of that, and part of that. Then it's a whole lot of copying and pasting, and then half the time I'm like, screw it, I'll just remodel the damn thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Cool. So what's our next
Let's
question?
see. Beth was asking if we know anything about the 24.3 Unify issue.
I don't know what that issue is. I mean, there's so many issues with Unify slash searching to content catalog.
I'm
Beth, can you be a little bit more specific? Um,
hoping Jason can answer because
Beth,
Beth's
so
in a fight
at
with
Inside the
Autodesk.
Factory, Beth, one of the breakout sessions was with the woman from Unify who came in, and it was funny that she came in like I don't know. I was expecting to start talking about how they're going to tweak it. She just was literally getting grilled by everybody in the room. What is this? I felt bad for the woman. I didn't know her person, know other people from the old Unify. She was literally shaking when we got in there, so I tried making light of
Oh,
it. But I think one of the big things is literally Autodesk is being very open. At least they have been in a lot of things of this is what their immediate plans are. This is what their immediate plans are not. These are things that they are currently working on. These are things that they do not even have on the roadmap. So I think one of the things is literally try to get into Unify, talk to the people at Autodesk who are the old Unified people who are now the Autodesk content catalog. But the one thing I will say is they did say for at least the next three releases, they are guaranteeing they will continue to update Unify to be used because you can't use Unify and content catalog. So if for the next three releases, it will still be compatible with the next three releases of Revit. They after that they're not going to say anything after that, but they're saying, hey, we can actually do that. So that's kind of one of the biggest things that they have come out and said. Content catalog is lacking, and they flat out admitted it's not where Unify was. And honest truth, I don't know if it ever will be because they're going to tweak and get some things that are different. So I don't know. I know there was one thing that everybody was like, this is a must have. We need these to have, and I don't know the tools. And the one was like, that is not on our roadmap to update to content catalog. So no, there is a Unify plugin for 2025, Jason. That's what everybody in there was saying. And she's like, no, there absolutely is a Unify 2025 plugin. I have no idea, but that's what I don't know. I'm not a Unify user. I used to do webcasts for Unify and everything, but I never was a Unify user.
That's funny. Where the hell's it? Do they still have the AI chat bot? I don't even remember what Autodesk called theirs.
The
Go
what?
ask. With Autodesk had the like chat bot to help you find things. I don't know if
Ask
it's still a
Ava.
thing.
Was
Was
it
it Ava?
Ava?
Something like that.
Autodesk virtual agent, Ava.
Ah, yep, there you go. Jason, go ask Autodesk Virtual Ava where the hell that is. They killed her. Oh,
They killed her. Ava.
wow. We're getting dark.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's
no,
funny.
I think there was a I think Unify was one of those programs that was a great program, but it had a lot of, as Autodesk would deem it, not great behind the scenes programming. Because Autodesk has done this with other programs in the past, and it's not the fact that Autodesk doesn't like what's going on with programs that they acquire. A lot of times they start getting into the code and realize how janky or jacked up, or how the code may have been, or how it's not up to their standards, right? Because they're a worldwide company and they have different standards. So I know, like when Ecotech got bought, and I could have told them this not even being a programmer, when they acquired Ecotech, the programming was so janky behind the scenes. They were like, yeah, we really can't use any of this. Like we put this out, all the bugs, all the things that start having issues, etc. So I'm not sure, but I'm assuming that part of the reason, and I've known Unify over the years, they've had a lot of programmers come in. There's been a lot of turnover, etc. So I do know that that
Yeah.
is one thing, right or wrong. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing on Autodesk count, and they've never said this to me, but I do know on the Ecotech side that's exactly how it was. So whenever I see them acquire a product that you thought was really really great, then they kind of start doing this weirdness to it. I was always kind of like, yeah, it might have been working now, but also what broke. And then the other question is how well is it working with the .NET 8 upgrade? Right? That's why PyRevit still isn't out. That's why there's a lot of things, and a lot of programmers I knew said, yeah, that made us change a lot of the stuff we had. It made us go back to some old
Yeah.
code that was poorly written. And this is not what I'm saying. This is actually other added utilities I know. Like it made us go back to some of the code that was poorly written from years past and have to go through and start tweaking that. So I don't know. That's all I can tell you. I have never been a Unify. I've played with Unify, but I've never been a Unify user to know all of the features it had.
Yeah, me either. But it looks like
But I
there's
know
some
in the breakout
passion.
session, the girl got raked over the coals. It was kind of like, man, I feel bad for this
Oh,
person. I hope she got like double her salary when she went from Unify to work for Autodesk. Because I was like, I bet every one of her meetings are like this. This is broken. This sucks. What are
gotta
you
be
doing?
awful. She probably joined it because she's like, Unify works and it's great. And then now it's everybody's bane of their existence. Ugh.
All
Yeah,
right,
no
so what else
fun.
we got?
Well, for anybody that wasn't paying attention to the chat and cared about that, there's some links and a bunch of stuff in the chat. Let's see. Chris is asking if you have thoughts on how to create a family with an angle parameter where the user would be able to enter either the angle or a slope and have the parameters sync back and forth.
Oh, you can't have it be either or, um, and have it sync. So you could be in a family and have an angle or a slope, um, actually have one. I'm trying to think of which family I have that does that, but that's okay. I can do one real quick. By the time I find that family, I can probably create a new one real quick. So if I come in here and I do a reference line, and then I align the ends of that reference line to make sure it's constrained here and here, and then I do an angular dimension here, right? I can come in here and have this one be the angle actual, right? So I'll create this one, and I do this quite often on things, angle actual. And the reason why that's called the angle actual, and it's set up there is because then over here, I can have it be either or. So I can create a new parameter that is going to be like angle, which is an angle parameter, or I can have a new parameter that's going to be slope and have that a length parameter, right? So if it's going to be like a 412 slope, so it's going to be a 4-inch slope, right? Then I can have under angle actual, if slope is greater than 0, then so this would be the A tan of rise over run, slope over 12. Otherwise, I can say be the angle, right? Or get a little bit more in depth into that, saying if the angle is greater than 0, then use the angle as well. So you can start doing something like this. If I come up here and say the angle's 3, I'm just trying to expand you back open. What did I do? I hit, I think now I got to, oh, I have a 3 in here. Let's say, what is going on? Right. So then if I come up here and say, hey, this angle is going to be 3, then it's going to ignore the slope is greater, so I probably do, but I change this to 0, then it's going to say cool if it's 3. But if I say that's going to be a 412, then it's going to ignore the 3. But I can't get both of them to update at the same time. I can't get this one to update that one because there's formulas involved in it. So, but yeah, so you could simply do something like that. And I do this often. I call them actual. Hey, this is my angle actual, this is whatever. And then I'm doing that because there's some sort of conditional statement in there doing it. So then I can do the same thing here. If angle is greater than 0, then angle, else 0. So if I make this one 0, then that's going to be 0. This one 0, it's going to be 0. But if I come back and make either one of them have a value, it's going to give me the value. So hopefully that makes sense. Can't get both of them to update, but you can have the actual version. And I oftentimes do families where I need to know some sort of calculation. So I'll actually do, I call it my calculation, my value calculated, like my angle calculated. So if somebody puts either of these in here, I can do it. I have a few things like that where I can put a scale factor in, and then I'm like, cool. I do like some sort of like little calculator in there. So if somebody puts this in, here's what the other value that is. Or like somebody's like, God, I want to know, I'm only going to let them control the angle value, but they might want to know what is a rise over run. So I could be like, hey, here's a slope converted to angle. I've done that before too, where literally I just do the A tan of the rise over the run. And so if they type what I want to know what a 412 was, I type in a 4 here. Oh, that's a 4.76, and then I can copy that value or type that value in. So I've actually built calculators in my families as well for people to just put inputs in. So hopefully that made sense for you. Oh, Rick's like, I don't understand what the lock is. So
Yes.
the lock is simply this. If I've got a parameter here and a parameter here, right? I'm going to do a dimension from here to here, and then a dimension from here to here. And we're just going to call this one A. Sure, we'll call this one B. I love Zoom and Revit. It's so laggy, right? So what the lock does, and you can turn the lock on here, that if I like, sometimes if I'll like take this value and move it, it might adjust this one, right? And actually would have been better to do this. I think. We change that back to B. Well, but that one's pinned in location. God dang it, because this one's pinned. So let me take this, let me delete this. No. Yes, hang up, shut up. And delete the whole thing. Delete. Move this over here. And then let me dimension that and make it A. This is a way better example. Make this A. So if they're both unlocked and I take B and start moving this, B is going to change the size of A. This is it. If I lock this and this, if I move either of them, that's going to come along for the ride. That is literally, I don't know why it's telling me that, but that is literally all the padlock does. Oh, because I said that's lock value. So that's literally all it does. If it's I lock every single parameter in there because if I'm on the screen and doing this, I want this to remain what it was, not to adjust. That's it.
And is that the same when you're in the, yes, up there.
Yes.
That
So
place
by
in the
locking it
face.
here, you're locking the padlock on the screen. And that is literally all it does is saying, hey, if something moves on the screen, am I going to maintain this value or allow the value to stretch? That's it. I lock all of them because I usually am like these things are based off of each other and I don't want one thing stretching and not the other. So my habit is I lock them all in the family editor.
All right,
So
there you go.
cool. And Jacob's got a quick follow up to this one too.
There, is there a way to remove dimensions and reference planes that were added to the family template?
Yes for dimensions, no for reference planes. Um, Drives me crazy when you start with the out of the box template and you get this freaking frame projection interior or whatever you get this equal dimension. This one pisses me off. Like I got an equal dimension here in plan, but then I have to go to the elevation to see the width dimension here. Right. And you're like, cool, I want to delete this. It's actually letting me delete it. I didn't think it was going to, but I want to delete this and it won't let me. So the easiest thing I always tell people is sure, it will let you do it. Draw a new reference plane, drag that dimension to the new reference plane, delete the reference plane. That's how you get rid of dimensions that are in there. So I think it's this frame projection interior. Like if I just try to hit delete, no, there used to be something in here. I don't remember what it was that you just could not delete one of those dimensions. So yeah, grab the dimension, grab its script, move it to something you can delete, delete the something you can delete. But the reference planes, if it was created
Yeah.
in your template, no, you cannot delete those. Like I can't get rid of the center one there. Can't do that. It's stuck. Probably can't get rid of the front one either, right? There's just no way to delete those objects.
Oh, there's my otter who's giving us all takeaways.
Oh.
Mhm. Let's see. Oh, I have it a little bit. So Jeremy is asking, not necessarily for a demonstration of the workflow, but do you know if it's still possible to replay a journal file to automate repetitive tasks across multiple Revit files?
Absolutely it
So,
is. Depends on what your journal file does. So journal files are used by Autodesk for regression testing, which means they are very particular in the way they're set up and they're designed to figure out if the project, if Revit is going to break. So everything has to match pretty much precisely. So if you're saying, hey, I did something in project A and I want to do that in project B, that is never going to happen because if you're like selecting elements or doing things like that, it's just not going to happen. But I use journal files for quite a bunch of things. I use journal files to upgrade my families every year, right? So you can see that inside of here, these little TXT files are all my little lists of the journal files I like to use every time. The biggest one I use is my upgrade and audit file. So this journal file comes in and says, cool, I'm going to basically open files from a list of files with an audit. I'm going to save them. I'm going to close them. I'm going to be done. The way a journal file works is you drag and drop the journal file on top of the Revit icon. So the way this journal file works is at the very beginning, it says, look to this file. Use this file as your opening file to get all of the families that you're going to be using. So for me, I have a little BAT file. It's called my, that's the Revit projects. Where's my BDM, RFA? Sort these by types. This will be a BAT file. So I run this little button here, and this is literally just creates me a list of all of the files when it's done. So when it's all done, I get a list of families. I should actually probably go into an actual folder of Revit families. 23, I probably have it here. So when I run this, it's going to update this file. Go ahead. And so now this file has been updated today, and then literally this is a list of every family in this folder or any subfolder, their location. And then when I drag and drop that icon, whichever icon it might be, or whichever journal file it might be, onto the Revit icon, it just starts going through that list and running it. Again, on some of these, it might break, saying, hey, there was an issue in this family, or you did this. The biggest thing with the journal files, like some of those other ones I had, like I was upgrading the arrowheads. I didn't like the way the arrowheads were named, is you try not to record your journal file by clicking on the screen. You try using like the tab key, you use the arrow up and down key. Because if I clicked on that dialog box right here, well, and the next one, the dialog box might have gotten moved over to here, and now I'm clicking here, so it fails. And that's literally what they are designed for. So you've got to be very particular in not selecting things with the mouse movements, trying to do everything with like keyboard tools, etc. But yeah, I have those. I've posted those. I think it's on the Autodesk Knowledge forums. Here's my Revit upgrade utilities, and it works every single year. It's how I've always done this. I've been upgrading Revit files, doing the journal method since probably Revit 2000 and no Revit version 10, which might have been 2006. I don't remember. But yeah, so that's how you do it. If you want any more of those, Jeremy, just shoot me an email and I will send you those 3 files for you to use.
Nice. All right, let's see. Do you have any references on where to get historical structural beam families?
By historical, do you mean historical to Revit or historical to the world in
That's
general? When you said historical, I thought you might have been talking about the old Revit families. Now my brain just popped into saying,
yeah.
they actually have gotten rid of some beam sizes, and maybe that's what you're talking about. So what I was going to say, and I believe it's under product updates. If you log into manage.autodesk.com, you can go download all of the Revit content. It doesn't install the Revit content anymore, so you can go get all of the like Revit content. I believe it's here. Someone correct me if I'm wrong before I go kill all this time. Click apply. And then I believe like you'll start coming down here and you'll start to see the content. Go away, virtual agent. I'll have to remember where it is, but yes, you can go get it all. You can install it all, and they go back to like previous versions. If you're talking, historic sizes, I know a lot of the old non-ANSI Revit families actually had those inside of there, and I believe you can still get all of those in Revit just by going to the insert load Autodesk software. So load Autodesk family. So I believe
Or
if you start coming
apparently
down
you can
here,
email Tom.
you go like structural columns. These will be like the non-ANSI ones. These are all the old ones inside of there. I don't know. I don't ever use this, so I'm not exactly sure which ones are which. Oh yeah, then down here you can see you've got the sorry, I keep saying ANSI, the ASIS versions. Otherwise, you just go to the old ones. So these are the old ones in Revit. These are the newer versions. But you can also download those. I just forget where that is. Cool. And what's our last one?
All right. And our last one is, can you show how to get roof framing to slope correctly with reference beams and columns along an exterior wall to show the roof framing pitching to drains along the cross slopes? How do you get the framing to attach to one another so we don't need to try to adjust framing piece by piece?
So if you open up the sample Revit structure from 2024 or 2025, it is done inside of there. So in the Revit structure sample project, I did this inside of here. So if you actually look inside of here, if I do a selection, you're going to see that I have in there in my structural columns, it's called the reference column, right? So what's happening inside of this file and what I've done, I should have selected something first, is I have a column inside of here. And if I go to a course level of detail, you're gonna cancel, should see these little orange lines, right? These little orange lines are my reference columns. When I draw a beam, I make sure that in the properties of a beam, you have what's called a start attachment type and an end attachment type. By default, that value is set to the end elevation, which means you are putting it at the end elevation. If you are modeling this into a column, you get the distance option, which basically means if the height of this column or the top of this column moves up or down, I am going to move with it. So then what I do is I take this reference column and I use the attached top to attach it to that floor, that roof, right? So if I undo hiding my roof, all I have to do then is take this roof, change the slope, do whatever I want to do to it. And as I do that, that beam, that column goes up and down with it. The beams go up and down with that column. The beam system, which uses these beams on the outside, then go up and down with it when you start looking into it. The downside of doing this, if it mattered to you, is by doing it this way. God dang it, I selected it, I thought. By doing it this way, when you do that, the source is to the left. Those beams stay plumb. If you wanted them to be perpendicular, this is not the way to do that. But yeah, so I modeled these as regular beams. I just changed all of them to have a distance, not an end elevation, or sorry, the elevation. Change it to distance. I modeled those into my reference column. That's the reference column. Did a beam system inside of it. Now it all moves together. I mean, I could even just play with the offset of the roof and be like, no, 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 I wanted to go up to 2 feet, and everything goes along for the ride. Again, I did not use the underneath side of that beam, excuse me, underneath side of that slab as a reference, a work plane. I did all reference beams. And I believe if you go to AU and you Google slope framing, I believe either myself or Desiree has done one of those in there. Yes, if they're plumb and I'm in a floor plan, it makes it much easier to dimension to each one of those elements. So I believe if I come up here, I should be able to see them. Not high enough, we'll change my view range. View range, unlimited for the top. Oh, point hit. No, that should have been what it was. So yes, now I can go dimension, boom, 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 boom. You're not going to get consistent spacing, even those are equal spacing because they are on a slope, but much easier to do it. And even if I'm in a non-wire or non-hit line mode, Unify mode, I could still dimension to those. Cool. And that's the last question. So 5 minutes over, not as bad as I usually am. But we do want to thank everybody for joining another great session. At least I thought was a good session of Revit Radio. Got a lot of good questions in there. Had a few people saying, "Oh my God, I had no idea you could do that." So a couple tips out there that people didn't know about. Sorry, I didn't have an answer for you on the Unify stuff. That's again, just keep hounding Autodesk and the Unify thing. Because I will say the one thing about that, for those who are frustrated with it, is they did say, hey, this feature is not on our roadmap, but that's because we haven't heard from our users that that feature needs to be on our roadmap. So do make sure you're getting a hold of Autodesk support or people at Autodesk and saying, look, we need this feature. This has to get upgraded to Unify when we get into it. So just do that. But otherwise, I hope to see everybody next month. And I'm going to finalize this with saying, if you haven't already, because it's now late afternoon, make sure you get out and vote. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.